So good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for the slight delay. We welcome you all to this webinar on intellectual property, which is facilitated by Engineer BK. We thank you so much for taking time to participate in this webinar. We really hope you'll find the webinar informative and you'll be inspired by it. This webinar was conceived after synthesis of deliberations that happened during the Researchers Forum last month. And during that period, we identified the need to enhance our understanding of intellectual property. So the objective of today's webinar is to sensitize the university community, as well as the general public on intellectual property. We aim to build the capacity of our researchers with regard to exploitation of research results. We know that JKUAT and the staff and students at JKUAT are involved in creation of knowledge, as well as generation of ideas and products and concepts. And research from JKUAT has also been used to address both local and global challenges. It has also been used to further research discoveries. We want to build our capacity so that we are able to exploit these opportunities for industrial action. We want also to see how the research can also benefit the researcher and also the whole public. As a researcher, I have known through experience that, for example, intellectual property rights can affect the way we use our research outputs. For example, just a simple failing to clarify rights at the start of research, we may get into unexplained limitations to the research and its dissemination. So I hope you find two things during today's webinar. The first thing is that you'll find this webinar informative. We would like to share the information. That's what Engineer BK will be doing. I also hope that you'll find another thing during this webinar, and that is inspiration. I hope that we'll be stimulated to think more about IP in our research process. And so I welcome you to learn about IP. If you're already familiar, glean some information and inspiration on ways of ensuring that your work or ideas that are coming from your mind are recognized. So allow me to present today's program. My name is Shem Kuya. I'm Head of Research and Innovations at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. The first thing we'll have is a talk from Engineer BK. That will be followed by a plenary of questions and answers and further ideas. And I also welcome you to write questions or thoughts that you like on the chats, which will bring together during our discussion. I presented to you Engineer BK Kariuki. Engineer BK Kariuki is the director of the Directorate of Intellectual Property Management and University Industry Liaison at JKUAT. He has so many other titles that I don't want to mention and confuse you and also scare you, but I know he's an authority in intellectual property management. He has many trainings on IP. He has also conducted several trainings and given talks on intellectual property in different fora, conferences, seminars, workshops, and other places. So I welcome Engineer to make the presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sem. Good afternoon, everybody. I've been introduced generously by head of research, JKUAT. But I want to add maybe one other thing, like that besides being a director of DeepWheel or Directorate of IP Management, I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. We are doing this in collaboration with the Directorate of Research. It's a collaboration of some sort, because we found that we needed to reach out to more people when it comes to IP consciousness within the university. Prepared it in a way that it is very easy to follow. And first of all, I'll go straight to definition. Go to the definition of what is intellectual property. I want to begin here, and I'm going to do it in form of a picture, kind of a picture which I have drawn here. And this is to make my work a little bit easy. And then I'll follow this up with maybe the importance of protecting intellectual property. When you think of intellectual property, I think one of the things that should come into mind is the word mind itself, is mind. As the other name for mind is intellect. The other word for mind is intellect. In some other instances, you find that there are people who use the word brain. Throughout our schooling, maybe these words were not used very often. Of course, nobody said that they were sharpening your mind or intellect to enable thinking. But what we are saying is that once you start understanding what IP is, one of the things that you find is that IP is not a very hard concept. It's about everything we think. And you can see I've actually highlighted the word think. So everything we think of, dream of to do, which we can refer to as creations. Provided whatever you are thinking or you dream to do is useful, it is new, useful, and beneficial. The question you can ask yourself, it is beneficial to who? Then maybe you can fill up the gap by maybe saying to yourself, maybe your institution and society at large. Of course, we are talking about things that happen under the sun, not anything beyond there. It is under the sun. So when you consider yourself, or we consider ourselves, the only part of the body that is tasked with the things to do with the thinking, it is the mind. And for the purposes of today, I want to use the word intellect. So I'll avoid the word mind and use the word intellect. And you can see that the thinking is actually, we can say, is triggered. We can say there are a number of triggers that can trigger the thinking, that can trigger intellectual activities in your mind. And one of them is when you receive new knowledge. When you receive new knowledge, and then you ask yourself, at what point did you start receiving new knowledge? From when you are born, at what point did you start receiving new knowledge, which is useful, that can be used to come up with the things which are new, useful, and beneficial to yourself, let's say like now our institution and the society. Maybe you can say at the point of kindergarten, when you enrolled in schooling, maybe at the point of kindergarten, those who went to kindergarten, you find that you start acquiring new knowledge, and that new knowledge can trigger something in the mind, in the intellect, that can result in some ideas coming up that can result in sort of like an invention. Then when you go to maybe for the people who have been through the 8-4-4 system, when you enroll in standard 1 to standard 8, the expectation is that you are receiving new knowledge that can result in something that is useful, new, and beneficial in whatever small way. Of course, in this part of the world where we live, that one does not happen, because we normally consider that education is not adequate enough. But these are the same children we take for national drama, national music festivals, the science congress, and things like that, which means their capacity to come up with to evolve ideas is already there, because their mind has been triggered by new, or intellect has been triggered by new knowledge. You can consider when you go to Form 1 to Form 4, then that is more knowledge again. When you get to university, more knowledge has been acquired. And so if you look at the whole chain of education, at various levels, you can see that you have got capability of actually coming up with things which are new, useful, and beneficial. And why would we actually even go that direction? We live in a world, or in an environment which is dynamic, where maybe new diseases are evolving, other challenges are evolving, and some of the challenges are like environmental degradation, waste management, pollution, soil degradation, diseases like we had the corona the other day, COVID-19. COVID-19 is not just a small matter. We are dealing with a virus, and so it required fellows with the high knowledge, maybe fellows who are able to do DNA sequencing, genome typing, and the gene editing. Which means what we are saying is that the education chain is one that actually enhances the capacity to actually fight any challenges. I don't know whether within ourselves, or let's say in our university, or people who are listening here, you are familiar with maybe a DNA sequencing, which means that you would have actually participated in creating a vaccine, like the one that everybody was actually, which was used to vaccinate people to actually reduce the effect of the COVID-19. Or maybe people who are more familiar with the genome typing, and a little bit further, they are familiar with those technologies that do a genetic gene editing, let's say like CRISPR, CAS 9 or 12, something like that. I don't know how many of us are familiar with that. So we may not be familiar because our education system has not evolved to that level. We may not be familiar because in our country, I don't think we have got even a lab that can handle the coronavirus. That is a biosafety lab level 4. I think the highest maybe we have in the country is a biosafety lab level 3, which you will find at Kemri. At another place you find that is Iriri, and the other place is Kenyatta National Hospital, somewhere in Kenyatta National Hospital. So what I'm trying to say that those things that lead to new and useful and beneficial things, their foundation, the thing that triggers that kind of going that direction is knowledge. And so when we go to school, it is about enhancing our capacity to think. Now, the other thing that can trigger the thinking or the intellect is actually desire to solve problems. There are guys who are people who have got the desire. Every time they see a problem, they have got a desire. It triggers them to start thinking that they want to actually solve that problem, provide a solution. The other way is investigation, like the research we normally do in the university. You do research and somehow you come up with ideas which can result to innovations or interventions or etc. Then you can also, your mind or interest can be triggered by tapping ideas from customers. So if you look at people who are in business, including ourselves because we are in business, and you have seen we have got an integrated management system, which is a combination of quality management and environmental management systems. In it, we normally try to get feedback from the customers so that we can actually review our procedures to make them better so that we can serve the customers better. So an intellectual property can arise from listening to customers and then trying to look at reorganize your business so that it actually the customers are satisfied. The other thing is imagination. It is expectation. It is expected that everybody who has got an intellect, who has got a mind, has got capacity to imagine. So if you are not imagining, then slowly by slowly, we are saying that you are actually working out your way to some extinction of some kind. Then exposure, experience, inspiration, curiosity, all those things trigger the intellect to bring out things which are new and useful to society. Of course, I've said that all those things make you have ideas which can result to inventions, innovations, products, designs, expressions, software applications, business methods like M-Pesa. M-Pesa is a business method, and it came from somebody's brain. It did not just happen. Somebody involved their intellect in some activity, and they came up with that kind of application. So what we are saying and what we should actually pick from that slide, one of them is the word thinking, which is related to intellect of things, the thinking and creating under the sun things which are new, useful, and beneficial to you and society. If a society chooses not to actually follow the path that is to the right, where you are coming up with inventions, innovations, and things like that, they risk becoming consumers all their life. And if you look at Africa, in one way or another, we are consumers. Not that we don't have intellect, we have got intellect, but simply maybe because of lack of awareness, because we are interacting with all these things all the time, we do not evolve any, we do not actually come up with inventions, innovations, product designs or whatever, which can actually help us, that can actually help us solve some of the problems that affect us. Now, I want to give you an example. I want to give you an example of some of the things that are considered to be intellectual property assets. An asset, of course, we all understand is something that you can finally, you can actually, at one time or another, sell or dispose of for some money. You make some money out of it. Among the assets, which sometimes people do not consider as assets, but especially for an institution like ours, is trained staff. Trained staff has got some know-how in their heads, in their intellect, that can be exploited commercially, maybe through consultancies and those kind of things. So that one is disregarded And if you look at maybe our institution, one of the things that can tell us whether we are doing that is whether we have got an inventory for all the staff, showing their level of education, training, sort of showing that can be used again to profile the university, show where are we weak, where are we strong, where should we be working to strengthen if we are to decide to actually deliver on our mission, vision and mission. So good practices demand that, first of all, recognize that whatever stuff is in the head of the 20 people is actually intellectual property asset. It needs to be managed as such. And it can be appropriated in different ways. Then the other one we can talk of is chemical formulas. Like now, if you look at soft drinks like Coca-Cola, whatever led to that is a chemical formula. It's a chemical formula. And if somebody thought it through, and out of that, they are making money, lots of money in terms of billions, just because of that formula. Then there's technological know-how, like you can have somebody who can actually repair ICT devices. In their head, they have got some know-how, and that is part of intellectual property asset. So when they are exercising that, when they are repairing your devices, what exactly they are doing is actually earning money by use of that asset. Then there are methods and procedures. Let's say like you got procedure for making yogurt. If it is well documented and it can be protected, because what it is actually showing is what are the inputs into that procedure and what is the output, which will be the yogurt. If the steps are shown, including are you going to boil something, are you going to add something at what ratio, and all those kind of things, it will constitute that procedure, will constitute an intellectual property. Then there's what we call integrated assets, then integrated circuits, then formulations. Let's say like we have herbal concoctions and other things. They are not very bad. They are not bad as such. Then there's space. They also consider this to be part of intellectual property. Then products like vaccine, those guys who made vaccine during the COVID-19, they made lots of money because of actually coming up with a vaccine. Things like computers can be considered to be them, phones, cars, and things like that. Of course, you ask yourself at that point, how comes we ourselves in this part of the world, we are not bringing forth this, and we have got an intellect just like these other fellows have. And as I've said, it is lack of awareness of how we arrive at these kind of things. And part of why we are here together today is to actually examine those things. What is that we don't know, which we need to know so that we can also contribute to the society, just like any other parts of people in the other parts of the world do. Then there is software, you design software, lecture notes, your lecture notes, if you are teaching, is part of intellectual property. Then advertisements, agreements, let's say contractual agreements. In this university, when you look around, you find that there are so many people who are doing maybe research. At that research, there is an agreement, maybe with an external body, an external agent, including foreigners from abroad. But when people write agreements, let's say like in this university, they forget about intellectual property. So you find that the agreement is there, but it is not tight about intellectual property. So when you have done your research and you have come up with results, which results to a vaccine or something like that, you find that when it comes to commercialization, you don't benefit out of it. Because right from the word go, when the agreement was being drafted, when it was being crafted, you did not check, nothing was checked. Of course, that has happened in the past when we did not have an IP office, didn't have deep will. But now with a deep will, all what it means is that any contractual agreements which are being done, it is good that they are given to deep will so that they can advise whether we have already secured, we are secure as far as our intellectual property rights are concerned. If you look at the newly devised JQuat IP management policy, that one is part of what we have made it to be mandatory, that if an agreement is being done, less deep will actually go through it. and see whether the university is likely to lose is proprietary information. Then you see these guys who sing, you see them, and those guys who compose songs. Those songs and those compositions come from the mites, and so they are considered intellectual property assets. And if there are people who have been able maybe to actually make money out of intellectual property, maybe it is those, although once in a while they say they are surcharged because their copyright is violated by some other fellows who do not want to work hard, but they want to earn some money. Then if you write books, then again, you have got an intellectual property. You can consider that to be an intellectual property. And there are certain ways you can actually, there are certain things you can put on the book to give notice that that book belongs to somebody. You'll be discussing that later on. Then trademarks like logos, names, and things like that. And an example of a trademark is Jomo Kenyatta University logo. It's not known like that, but it is one thing that differentiates our services from that one of University of Nairobi. So every time you see that logo, you know this one is coming from University of Nairobi, not from University of JKUAT, or JKUAT, not from University of Nairobi. Then service mark, press releases, video and songs, paintings, working manuals, traditional knowledge. This one of traditional knowledge, I'm aware that maybe there are people in this university who do research and who are not aware that in that area of traditional knowledge, there are protocols, global initiatives, which actually put controls in that area. For instance, if you are doing research at using a genetic resource, let's say like a plant in one of the parts of the country, and the reason why you are doing it is because you had some rumor or something that when somebody takes actually is sick and they take that plant, they get well. Then what we are saying is that that is not traditional knowledge of those people of that area, which they have developed within time. They have been passing it down generations. And do you want to actually use the genetic resources and that knowledge, make do some research, get an output, patent, commercialize those outputs, and then you are enriching yourself with that money when the community from where that knowledge came from, they are suffering. So in most cases now in the world, because of a protocol called the Nagoya Protocol 2010, if you are using any genetic resources, you are supposed to go to the people, the people from where the plant is going to, you are going to pick your materials, and then you talk to them, you agree with them, it's called prior informed consent, at the mutually agreed terms on how you are going to access that plant for whatever. And then what you find is that universities abroad, because they are very much aware about this, when you are collaborating with them, one of the questions they ask you, does your university have an IP office? Because what has been happening in the recent past, when you publish work that has used genetic resources, there are people who track it down to see whether you had a PIC or you had a MAT, a mutually agreed term. Mutually agree, you had a peak at a mutually agreed terms. And what they will do is, if you have patented the patent, you actually be nullified. If you have published those publications, you'll be nullified, and so on and so on. So those universities abroad, they don't want to suffer that kind of embarrassment. So they ask you, does your university have an intellectual property office to guide you on how to treat traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge? So I'm saying this because I've seen those cases, and when you come to DeepWheel, you want to apply for a patent, the first thing we ask you, where is PIC and where is the MAT? If you don't have that one ourselves, we are not going to involve ourselves with that kind of application for a patent. Then there are things like publications, list of suppliers, like now these people of procurement. The list they have of their suppliers is actually intellectual property which would not be exposed to other institutions, because other institutions are not supposed to know who we use and to procure our things. And including their addresses and things like that. Then broadcast and designs. So if you look at this list, which is not exhaustive, you can see that the mite is capable of producing so many things, and which may be from, at no time have you ever considered them to be intellectual property assets. So take it from me, that is simply when we are talking of intellectual property, some of the assets that we are talking about are this one, which you can actually dispose of and acquire some money. Research which has been done shows that 70 to 90% of an organization is actually intellectual property asset. So if an audit is done at JQuat, what you find is that you pick most of these things from somewhere. The question is whether we are actually using that to our advantage. Are we commercializing them? Are we making money out of this? If we are not making money, then it means awareness about intellectual property and these assets is minimal. And that is why we are here, maybe, to actually talk about this. Now, when you have got those kind of assets, the next thing you ask yourself is whether what is the protection that is given to some of those assets, so that as you exploit them, commercially exploit them, you reduce or minimize competition. And this right, the protection I'm talking about here, one of the things you are familiar with, which is not an intellectual property asset, is a title deed for a piece of land. To prove that you have got a piece of land is yours, one of the things you have to provide is a title. So RAD title, and that is a right given by the state at a certain law. And for in some cases, if it's a lease, it will be 99 years. If it is a freehold, then you have got the title for the rest of your life and things like that. Now, of the things that I have discussed in the other page, some of them are covered by a right called a patent. You get a patent. A patent is just a certificate, just like a title deed, that gives exclusive rights to your invention or to your intellectual property asset. And that one is normally given for methods, processes, products, and formulations. So if you have got a procedure, which is also a method, or a product like an equipment that you have come up with, or a formulation, which you can write down and show how it is the formulation, the constituent of the formulation, you can get a patent, which is a right by the state. And it is for 20 years, which means for 20 years, you are the only person who can actually give permission to other people to exploit that patent. It's sort of, you can use a method of leasing it. For 20 years, you are the person who can control how it is made, how it is sold, how it is imported, how it is used, all those kinds of things, 20 years. Beyond the 20 years, you find that other people can come in, use the same information that was secured by the state, and now come up with their own products and compete with you seriously. Then, for you to get that one, there are 3 things that you have to prove. That the thing is new, that it is not obvious to people who are in that field of making those kind of devices or those methods. It is not obvious. We normally call it non-obviousness. And then, is it useful or can it be made in industry? So the word industry now comes in. And so for 20 years, you can enjoy that. If that method or a product does not meet the criteria of non-obviousness, which means it's obvious, but it is new, and then it can be used in industry or made in industry, you get what we call a utility model. In most cases, we refer to this as an inferior patent. Another jurisdiction, it is called an inferior patent, and the protection is for 10 years. The protection is for 10 years. Then there's what we call a trade secret, like we have for Coca-Cola formula. They did not register in any office because registering all those things consume money. They decided to keep it as a secret, and for things like processes, formulas, those ones you can keep as a secret. You don't have to involve yourself with applying for your rights. And you can see the protection is for life for as long as the secrecy is maintained. So right now for Kokora, they will ensure that maybe only 2 people at any one particular time knows the formula. And so they actually keep on monitoring the movement of those ferals to ensure that they don't give the security to a competitor. So those rights, the ones that I have talked about, the 3 of them, arise from work of invention. You have been to a lab, to a laboratory, and you have done some research, and you have come up with research results that can lead to an intellectual property asset. And the protection is shown there. Now, the other rights that for things that arise from creativity, let's say, like you sit down because you have got a mind, you have got an intellect, and it is thinking, and you are observing the environment all around you, and you can see things, you can see cars passing you, you can see shapes of buildings, you can see shapes of cutlery and things like that. And then you say, I think we can change the design and shape it this other way, sort of aesthetic to make it look better and things like that. So we are not addressing functionality here. So this is something to do with the eye, the ears, and things like that, reasoning, looking at it, and now figuring out how something can be changed to have another shape or another look. For that one, the protection is 15 years. How we cannot actually figure out that one and engage, maybe including our students, all the way from kindergarten to university, we cannot engage them in doing that, and they have got the laptops and the things like that, then it's actually a mystery. Because those are simple things that can be done by those fellows. And then we can change our country slowly by first of all changing designs of certain things which are coming from abroad. That is what countries like Korea did. And I think Korea in 1970, that is when they moved in that direction, and they left us behind to struggle. So the other thing is trademark. Trademark, as I had said in the other whatever, a logo, numbers, names, house, etc. And those ones, the protection is for life as long as subscription is maintained. Then there's what we call geographical indication. Geographical indication is almost like a trademark, but it's one which is actually assigned to maybe a location. It is sort of like a direction. It is giving a specific place where a certain thing either is grown, let's say like a coffee. Let's say like you take, for instance, coffee that is grown in various counties in this country. Then somebody does research and maybe improves on processes to give that coffee a certain kind of a taste. And that thing is only done there. Climate is good, soils are good, the processing is specific to that place. And then that coffee is sold under the name of that area. Like you can see, for example, in Ethiopia, what they did that kind of a research, and they found that coffee grown in the various provinces develops different kind of tastes, and they have chosen to market their coffee under the provinces, a province called Sidamo, Haral, Yagashif. And so if you go to a supermarket, let's say like Naivas, just next here, you find that you can buy coffee which has got those labels. That is their trademark, but we see that the geographical education telling you exactly the source of that coffee. Why we cannot do that for our country, for the counties, that is again a mystery. Then there is copyright for books, lecture notes, publications, computer programs, and things like that. Advertisement and things like that. So you look at including our university, because our IP consciousness is a little bit on the lower side. When we do publications, we don't actually give a copyright notice. I normally see people come up with a policy or a research paper, but on the top page, they have not given a copyright notice, so that people do not just quote those publications without reference to the source. So it is very important to be aware of some of these things so that you apply them. I find a bit of people, because of that lack of awareness, we do not actually apply for this race. So mostly, those are the rights that that actually apply to some of these things that I had shown you earlier on. If you pick any of these, you should be able to categorize it and say if you actually follow under one of these categories. Okay, so I want to focus a little bit on a patent, because a patent is a right which is highly recognized globally. And I want to show you some of the things we have to go through when we are dealing with a patent. When we are dealing with a patent, or when we are applying for a right, for things you have done in the lab, and you have come up with something that is either a product that you can acquire rights for. And these are some of the things that we do in deep field, which maybe other universities have found very difficult to handle because it requires a lot of training. So before we apply for a patent, when you come to us, we will give you a template that will tell you that all what you are telling us, you have to fit into this template. You have to tell us the title of the invention, statement on technical field of invention, a set in the area of which equipment, which procedures, or all those kind of, in which medicine, and so on and so on. So then the other thing you have to fit into that template is the background of invention. Background of invention, prior art. We normally give it, the other name we use is prior art. What is known in the area that you claim to have come up with something new? What is known before? And so we have to do some search to see in that area, what are the other things which have been done? Then you give a summary of invention. Then you have to disclose. You give us what we call a disclosure. And that one is done through a form, which we call an invention disclosure form, where you detail description of the invention, including the best way of actualizing that invention. Because one of the things you have to realize is that you might not be the person to take it to the commercial exploit. You are not likely to be the person to take it for commercial exploit. And so you need to put the information in a way that if an entrepreneur would pick it up, they would be able to read through and see exactly what you want to make and make that one. So when we do not even actually disclose anything that we have done in research, we are actually saying we are not actually, there is lack of entrepreneurship, because what we are saying is that that thing cannot be exploited commercially in a very easy way. Then description of drawings and claims, and then claims. Claims is now what is that is yours in that invention. What is yours? And that is the legal aspect of the document. All the other things are technical. And so when we are working out this, we have to work it out with the legal department of the university. And we are in the process of ensuring that they understand intellectual property very well, so that we are able to work closely. Now, when we have now done that, and we want now to apply for a patent, this is the procedure. We have to, we pick your disclosure now, which is the starting point is we pick your disclosure, the disclosure of the invention through asking you to fill an IDF or invention disclosure form, a software disclosure form, or both. Then Deep will conduct what we call a prior art search to find out whether anybody else in the world is actually doing whatever you are claiming to do. Then a decision to file for a patent is made by the Intellectual Property Management Advisory Board. This is a new board which was created by the newly revised Intellectual Property Management policy. Then once they have said it is okay, the university can actually take that one on board, then we start the process of what we call patent documentation. That is drafting. Then we file an application with the KIPI, and that application will consist of the application form, which is IP3, then an IP4 transfer of rights, plus patent document, plus a filing fee of 3,000. Then other things will follow. We will follow after we have done what we call a prosecution of the patent. This is a back and forth process where we actually now interact with the KIPI, where they normally challenge our claims the claims we have on the any patent invention, and then we also counter some of their reasoning, and eventually we land at a position. Either they grant the patent or they reject. In most cases, in our case, they have been accepted. So we have not had any problems of that in that. Now, when it comes to, there are some things that cannot be patented. This is very crucial to note, so that if you do any of these, you do not come to DPU to actually ask us to apply for a patent. Human genes are not patentable. Things that already exist in nature are not patentable. Things that go against the law of nature, scientific theories or mathematical methods, schemes of rules or methods, e.g. of doing business like M-Pesa, you cannot patent that. But there are rights which are applicable for those kind of things, but not a patent. Then methods of medical treatment, you cannot now maybe patent a method for treating malaria or COVID-19, because that one will be limiting the treatment to only you, the people you have to come to you for treatment. Then computer programs are not patentable. Now, for Jomo Kenyatta University, that is the scenario. This is the IP portfolio up to 2023. The patents which we have been able to secure for this university are like 15. We have got about 22 which are pending. We have got 23 utility models. We have got pending about 8 of them, and the total is about 68. What we are saying is that this university has got potential to interact with the industry by giving this out to them, having negotiation with them, licensing them out, and making money out of this. That is simply what we are saying, that things to do with the IP is about acquiring the rights and then looking for somebody whom you can work with or doing it yourself. Then global patenting filing statistics, we have got the ones for 2021. We are normally 1 year behind. That's what that's normally the case. And if you look at that one, out of 3.4 million, the ones that Africans, Africa itself, which are attributed to Africa, are only 20,407, which is actually a representation of 0.6%. If you look at that scenario, you can see that Asia has got 2.2 million. When you look at the industrialization of the Asian continent, and you look at Africa, then you find that we have less industries than we have. What does that mean? They're able to create more wealth, they are able to create more jobs, and whereas we remain as consumers, exporting all our jobs for our youth and not able to actually create any wealth. You can see even in Africa, 78% of that 20,407 comes from Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa. That is people who are in the south and people who are in the north and south. So what is the advantage of actually patenting? I'll just take you through this. It means once you get a patent, you have got an exclusive right, which is granted by you by the state, and which now actually states that you are the owner. And if you want to actually commercially exploit that patent or invention, it is important that you patent. And then you can see down there the reasons why it is good. Because you actually build strong, you end up with a strong market position and competitive advantage as a result of exclusive rights that prevents others from commercially using the patented information. Then you have higher returns on investment, benefiting from a lead time of marketing the patented product during a patent term. Then various options for licensing or assigning the patent rights to other people to manufacture, and then you make some money. Now, additional value to it also comes with the additional value to the university, corporate brand, and the reputation. Everybody, you know that Jomo Kenyatta University, they do research, and eventually they package that research in a way it can be consumed by the community, which means it's a serious university. And so when people are giving you grants, they know that you can achieve something. Now, The serious also of intellectual property. If you want to know why we are lacking in industrialization, is because intellectual property generated in universities and R&D constitutes about 70% of industrialization. So if we are not contributing, we are not producing any intellectual property, which can be fed into the industry, then we are saying the chances of us industrializing are remote. And that is the truth of the matter. So because 70% is actually intellectual property of the industry. Then is Jomo Kenyatta in a position to help Kenya industrialize? And what we have done is we have looked at the motto of the university, which means we have got the intention, we have got the intent. So if we commit ourselves to actually taking it to the conclusion, then we can actually to a conclusive end, then we have got it. We have got it. If you look at our motto, which is actually which reads, setting trust in higher education, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, it sort of agrees with what is the current kind of education that is offered in other parts of the world apart from Africa, which is called Education 5.0, which actually emphasizes on teaching, research, innovation, industrialization, and community service. If you look at the kind of education we have been offering, especially at university level, has to do with the teaching, research, and community service. So we have been offering an education which cannot result in any industrialization or any enterprises at all. But now, when you look at Jomo Kenyatta University and its motto, if we decode, we decoded that, we are saying that higher education and research, all that are part of knowledge, which can result to inventions and innovations. And when we acquire the intellectual property rights, we can actually engage enterprises. We can engage entrepreneurs to pick the IPRs and create industry, which means in the long run, the University of Jomo Kenyatta will be known as an entrepreneurial university. It's a university that has exploits knowledge. It does not just generate knowledge anyhow. It actually exploits knowledge for the good of the community. And this is if you look at the intellectual property policy of the university, you will find this, it will be circulated to once it has been printed. It actually identified the path of intellectual property, the path of intellectual property management. And what we have said is this: everybody in this university who enters through the gate is an IP generator. You can create IP, whether you are in ANF, whether you are in AA, whether you are in RPE, or post, or wherever you are, you have got a brain, you have got interest that can actually, by put into use, you can come up with an intellectual property without even going to the lab, by simply sitting down and looking at some of the things that we do and actually improving on them and resulting in intellectual property. Then we have got a DeepWheel, because DeepWheel can actually now look at what you are saying you have come up with, and you'll be able to judge whether it is new or not. And then we can also advise which direction should it go. Should it be incubated at the park, at Jiquates, or should it go straight to the industry after we have got an intellectual property right? Now, the parts that we have considered to be appropriate for now commercializing your intellectual property are four. One of them is licensing, which means we lease the patent or the intellectual property right to somebody for a period of time. During that time, we can also continue with the research and the actually improving of the invention. That is the beauty of licensing. And in the process, they will be giving us money in form of royalties. Then assignment, that is transfer of all the rights to a third party. And then we use, in that case, we have sold, just like you can sell a product to somebody. And that is, you transfer the title and things like that. Then self-exploitation, where we can actually create industries. Let's say like in our JQuat Park, we can create industries like based on maybe for tech products, things like that. Joint ventures, that is university and private partners working together. Then the assistance that is available in DeepWheel, I'm almost coming to an end. the assistance which is available in DeepWheel. One of them is we can conduct patent information search for you in worldwide databases, which contains over 100 million documents. And those databases are PatentScope, eSpaceNet, USPTO, Google Patent, and we will do that to help you avoid reinventing the wheel, duplicating, and wasting resources by doing things which were done by other people. By the way, the two-thirds of the information found in these databases, you cannot get it anywhere else. You cannot get it in a journal. So when you are doing research, it is good to confirm with us whether what you are trying to come up with, other people did it maybe 100 years ago. Then to look for technology that is available in the public domain and which can be applied to solve a given problem. Of all the problems we are seeing, we are experiencing, a solution is somewhere and it is in that database. So if you have got a desire to solve a problem, what we are saying simply, you can come research through to see whether that problem you think can be is a problem, whether other people solved it, and then you can pick it and then customize it to solve your problem. Then enrich your research proposals. When you are writing your proposal, if you take a point of engaging us, we are likely to expose you to now the more information that can actually improve on your proposal at that stage. And we can start working with you at that stage up to the point when you come up with the intellectual property, and then we secure the rights. Then we train the researchers, the students, and everybody else, including outsiders, of the basics of patent information search. Then we develop course content for IP mainstreaming into the curriculum. What we note is that nobody should graduate from JQuat without basic IP knowledge. Then patent drafting, we do that. Filing for intellectual property rights with the relevant national IP, granting registering agencies like KIPI, KECOPO, and KEFIS. Then IP training for students and staff. So where are we located? We are located at the engineering workshop next to the machine shop. You see a signage, written Directorate of Intellectual Property Management and University Industry Liaison, DeepWheel. That is our email address, and our telephone extension is 4062. So finally, I have brought you back to this one. This is something that I told you, when you hear of intellectual property, just tap your head, kidogo, and you know inside there, inside the skull, there is a reserve for all the solutions of all the problems you are seeing that are actually overwhelming. And you can actually use somebody else's brain, or you can use your brain to actually come up with a solution. I think that brings me to that.
Thank you so much, Engineer. We are glad that you've been able to give us that highly informative talk. Thank you, participants online. We welcome discussion questions. We'll also welcome Engineer BK Kariuki to answer some of the questions. So the first question, I request if there is someone with a question, you could, or a discussion point, you could raise your hand, give us a signal, we give you a chance, and then we also discuss some of the questions that have been posted on the chat. Do we have someone, some hand somewhere? Okay, so as we check, Engineer, there is a question here. Intellectual property is stolen. What is the remedy? There's a question, if intellectual property is stolen, what is the remedy? What would be a quick answer to that?
If it is stolen, how would somebody else say stolen? It is stolen because you have documentation showing that whatever is being practiced by another person is yours. And it is you deposited that information or knowledge with the, let's say, the IP granting agency. In Kenya, that if you go to keep it, we can pick that document from there. So if you start the document, you say, this thing is mine, the right is mine, this fellow is doing exactly, is practicing this knowledge without my permission.
Engineer, that is sad, because what you're saying is that if I don't have any documentation,
Yeah.
and my idea, I shared my idea and it's been taken by someone else, I should not consider that stolen because I don't have any evidence of proving that it was my idea.
That is why today's webinar is very important, to get the people to understand that once you come up with something, it will only be protected if you secure your rights with the IP granting rights agencies. Like in Kenya, you go to keep it. And the first person to take the information leading to that invention is the person who is considered to be the owner of that invention. That is the rule. And it is a global rule that the first file is the person who is the owner. So if you make a presentation somewhere, let's say in a seminar or whatever, and somebody finds that they can pick that information and head to the office that grants rights, and they go there, it will be taken that that is theirs.
They'll be the owner.
Yeah. So when you go there, you will have to prove it. What do we have coming from you?
So now when you start saying they stole, then you'll be the one who will be considered as you stole the idea.
Yeah, they will not take, they will not even listen to you.
Okay.
Because that is the wrong.
Great. I hope our colleague, Graham, thank you so much for that question, has brought clarity. There's another question from our colleague. Are patents granted by KIPI recognized globally? There's a question. Are patents granted by KIPI recognized globally? And then the other question is, who eventually owns a successful patent filed through the university? Is it the researcher, the university, or both? Engineer, I would like you to deal with those two first. The first one is whether the patents that are granted by KIPI are recognized globally. And the other one is our question that relates to the university, the researcher, or both.
Okay. On the first one, patenting, the way it's understood is territorial. So if you protect you choose to protect something in Kenya, your invention in Kenya, and you do not go to any other parts of the world, the knowledge behind that creation is free in those countries, and they can make those things without even reference to you. Because globally it is understood that a patent right is territorial. So if you wanted to stop other people from practicing that globally, you'd have to go to various countries. Those countries where you think that if they got hold of that information, they would actually come up with that eventually. Now, there are shortcuts if you want to go global. And one of the things is there is a system called P, it is a patent. It is anchored at a whiteboard where you can make one application. And then that application can apply to all the states which are already signatories to that PPC.
Okay, thanks. That's the latest one.
Called Patent Cooperation, PCT, Patent Cooperation Treaty. Anybody who is party to that treaty, if you apply, then what you are going to do is that application will be sent to almost everybody, but you will not get an international patent. You still have to go to that country. Or what you are trying to do is to secure this with those countries.
Okay, there is, I think Paul Kagame has a question.
No, there is one which I have not answered.
Yes.
Yes.
The university or both. Paul, hold on.
Yeah. Now, if you look at our IP policy, that one is well understood, is well explained in IP policy, where we say if you utilize most of the resources that are given by the university, there's a university time, university labs, all those kind of things, then that patent will belong to the university. But when the university commercializes that, you have a share, there's a sharing formula of how the university and you are going to share the proceeds of that commercialization of that patent.
Good.
Yeah.
So I think
that one can be read in our intellectual property policy, which you can interact with once it is printed.
So what you can tell participants is that they could follow up with the policy and read it and get informed.
Yeah, get informed. If you go around the whole university once it has been printed, in creating awareness of that course.
Okay, Paul, please give your question before we go to another question online.
What are the costs that are incurred during the IP process, or is it a free process?
Can you repeat the question?
What are the costs that are incurred during the IP process, or is it a free process?
Engineer, what are the costs, or you offer pro bono services?
No, when it comes to patenting, because we are doing this for the university, because any work that we have gathered so far is one where the owner of the patent is the university. And we are employed by the university, directly employees of the university. We draft all those and actually take up the process, especially drafting, we do it for free. We not for free, they pay us a salary, of course. But when it comes to applying, when you get out of that gate, you start paying, first of all, by paying 3,000 as you deposit the application at KIPI. Then after that, there is a series of other expenses and fees which have to be paid to KIPI, all amounting to about, by the time we get the patent, a minimum of about 22,000.
A minimum of 22,000.
A minimum of 22,000.
So the question, I think the question the participant is asking is, if the person is not an employee of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, and is requesting the initial process before they get out of the gate, would you offer that services free, or do we advise they come and you discuss?
That one will be at a fee, and it will be part of what university should end through DPL.
Okay. So if the applicant is not a staff of the university, then we invite the applicant to visit the relevant offices and discuss. Now, there's another question here. Is the procedure for protecting the other IPRs similar to that of patents, which you have outlined? Is the procedure similar or different? And the other question is, if you modify a gene by editing to produce, to improve a product, is this product patentable? We will try to be brief so that
any modification that goes into making another product or something, the whole of that is acceptable. But if the gene is itself, you just take a gene, you're not.
So if I identify a gene, I cannot protect it.
No, you cannot protect it because it is there naturally. It has been there naturally. It has always been there.
And if I was walking in the forest and I come across this tree that I like and nobody knows about it and I document it,
that one the road does not allow again.
I just discovered
that has been there. You have just discovered it. You have seen it.
I've seen it. Maybe
you have not applied the intellect. You have not applied any intellect to actually come up with that.
Okay. Okay, that's a bit clear.
Because remember, we are talking about the might and coming up with the summer. You have not come up with that specific thing.
It was there.
It was there.
So you should just.
But if you breed, you take it and now do some other improvements, then you can get a right, but not a patent. In most cases, you get a plant breeder's right. Which are
so, engineer, you're saying that if I run around Kenya and come and say we have this number of trees, they are here, they give us these services. I haven't. No. Okay.
That one is not allowed in law.
Okay. Now the next question is: it's high time accountants and financial reporting experts developed a standard to measure and quantify intellectual assets and capitals. Currently, the only a few like goodwill are reported in our annual reports. I think that's a comment. Thank you. Is patenting valued higher relative to other IP? So there's a question regarding patenting, e.g. arising from creativity. Is patenting valued higher relative to other IPRs, e.g. IPRs arising from creativity? Yes.
All of these are creations of the mind. They actually have to do with the intellect. Not necessarily that the others are weaker, but you find this one is a little bit rigorous. Coming up with a patent is not as easy as coming up with a logo or an industrial design.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We have participants from Kabianga. They are acknowledging Engineer Karuki. Thank you so much. Another comment is great presentation. And then, what is the process of making lecture notes an intellectual property? Now, this one, you are the one engineer, the one who brought the problem by saying that our lecture notes are intellectual property. And so,
yeah, all what you do is, especially for those people who have been able to reduce their whatever into software, all they have to do is give a notice somewhere to the forefront of those notes. You normally see a copyright notice is normally given by applying that C. You see that C in a circle, where you normally either write a date somewhere, and then all rights reserved or something. That is a copyright notice. Anytime you give that, it means you have protected your notes from any copy from anybody else. What it means basically, you are the one who put those things together in the way they are. And nobody should actually do it like that without really, you cannot reference to them without really coming back to you.
Yeah, Karuki, are you saying that if I do my notes and then I put that C, I have protected them?
Just like these slides that we are having here, if you look at the first page, the first page down there, it had a copyright notice. Okay. Which means if you use these slides without reference to deep with them, then we have got the right to move to court.
Okay.
And enforce our rights.
And now many people have asked, I would like the notes to be emailed. And now you're telling us you've copyrighted your notes.
So have they asked for them? Have they made a request?
So participants, you need to make requests and not simply chat, because there have been questions about will the presentation be shared? Will the slides be shared? So I had reserved that for the last comment and last request to engineer. But then Engineer Karuki, you will give your email address so that participants can directly reach you.
Yeah.
There is a question from Lucy. Lucy Kananu, Daktari Karibu. Please share your comment or question or input.
Thank you, Chair. I had asked a question about the procedure for protecting the other IPRs. Is it similar to that of the patenting, which you have already outlined?
Kindly repeat.
I had even typed it in the chat, but I think Prof has not picked it. I had asked, is the procedure for protecting the other IPRs similar to that of patents, which you have outlined?
They might not be the same, because like when we talk of copyrights, I've said what you need to do is give a copyright notice and that will be enough. But you can go further ahead and now pick your document and deposit it with a body called the Kenya Copyright Board. Just to be sure that somebody else has got the same information, just in case this matters are in a court of law. They will actually bring evidence that this thing is actually an invention or is a right for this other person. When it comes to trademarks, we would have to fill some form, but not as rigorous as the the patent. The patent is another headache altogether. But for trademarks, it's just filling some forms, dropping them at KIPI, and then for them checking to find out whether that name of yours is colliding with another one. And then maybe and whether it actually is not against the law, it's against the natural laws and things like that, and all those kind of things, and then they will give you the name.
Okay, another question is, engineer, how long does it take from the time of application for a patent to the time one receives the patent? Maybe you can give two versions, if from within your office and once the documents leave the gate to keep it.
When it comes to our office, it will take a very short time, because we have to work out, maybe, let's say if it's a patent, you have to develop the patent document with you. Remember the one that I said you have to show the title, all those kind of things, and describe your invention. That one can take 1 month in our office if we are working out together, and we concentrate, we focus on it. But once it leaves our office and it goes to keeping, one of the things that you have to know is that it has to be with the KP for 18 months. First of all, without disclosing to anybody. Then on the 18th month, they'll always telling us to pay some money so that it can be put in global journals. It can actually be advertised to everybody. It is published, and everybody in the world can see. Some people from Kenya are trying to patent a certain thing. So they interact with it and they can say, no, that thing belongs to so and so.
Why is that 18 months?
18 months is from when you now deposit your document with the KIPI, and they actually say you have formally, and this thing is actually 3-5.
Could it be like a period where if someone else has been working on the same, the patent could be out?
No, what you find
what is the purpose of the 18 months? Why wait for 18 months?
The 18 months because globally there are some other places that if you want to apply, let's say like Build Kenya, we first of all give you 12 months within which you must, after you have filed, we first of all give you 12 months. And then we give you some other months to ensure that you actually engage other bodies in the world that can also do that. So within that period, all that information that you have actually surrendered to keep it must be secured. But what we are saying is that the date that you applied is the one that your patent rights will start counting from there. From the date you applied. So if somebody came and applied later after you, let's take for instance, somebody comes and apply after you, the person who will get it is the person who filed the patent. They look at the date.
Thanks, great. So we're coming to an end. In the next 8 minutes, we have comments, great presentation from Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital. We appreciate that you attended. And then there's a comment. What about combining two machines to make one to solve a problem, e.g. machinery in other countries and not in one country? Can it be patented? So
it depends on whether the two machines that you combined, each of them separately had been patented. Which means for you to combine the two, you need to seek permission from the person who is holding a patent for this, and the other one who is holding a patent for this. Otherwise, you'll be caught in between. There's nothing that stops you from actually seeking rights from so many other guys who actually combine things and commercialize their things at a consideration. Of course, it will not be done for free.
Okay, so the other comments are about appreciation regarding the presentation. Engineer, thank you so much. There is one comment that I left so that I can respond to it. I think I have the competence to respond to it. Can a patent be inherited? But let me not respond to it, engineer. Can a patent be inherited?
When I was talking about the rights, and the patent was one of them, I said the right is applicable for 20 years. So if it is being commercialized, anybody, and then the owner actually, let's say by some way of whatever, passes on, then the process which were coming from that process of commercialization, you actually go to the family. Up to the time there, we are done with the patent. If you go to our IP policy, that one is well explained of what could happen in case of any eventuality, which would actually render the owner. So.
Okay, great. So we really thank you so much. If you have a question, please drop it before we end. If you would like to mention something, please. I had 3 questions which engineer has answered, because one was how can JKUAT support researchers and scientists outside JKUAT benefit from our efforts here at the university? And you've mentioned you've mentioned locational information. The other question was where are we as a country in terms of IP management, registration, and related things? You have mentioned that.
Yeah, but to add a little bit there, we are not doing very well. You saw in the table that I actually projected here about global patenting. You saw like we have got 20,000 in the whole of Africa in 2021. There were 20,000, and they are not going beyond that number. It's like we are stuck around the 0.6% of the total you find that most of these things I said, they come from North Africa and South Africa. This other remainder, which is about 4,000, is what we divide amongst the other universities, the other countries. The Kenya is always around 250 patent filings per year. So we are not doing very well, but when you consider us with these other people, these ones, not the North and the South, we are better off. We are referred as people who are doing very well. But 250 thinking, that is the capacity for our thinking, 250.
Smaller.
When you go to South Korea, you find that there's 200 and something, which means their capacity to start to do industrialization is higher than ours. Because if they have got new ideas about 240 per year or 300,000 per year, it is translating to about 6,000 maybe patents per a million, when ours is only 3.
So, engineer, what should we do differently? In few words, what should we do differently to increase the number of patents, the number of those rights, especially in JKUAT, especially in Kenya? What do you think we should do differently?
What we should do differently is, first of all, the awareness. The awareness on intellectual property. IP consciousness in this country is just on the lower end. Because I said this thing is not something that is introduced to us very early. If you go to South Korea, you find they started in standard 5. That's the level where they start talking about intellectual property. Here, you will find that you have been to university, when you show up to university, and you are hearing IP for the first time. So if you are in the university and you are hearing IP for the first time, you can consider the millions of Kenyans who have never heard about it. So we need to actually ensure that the awareness is actually improved. We need to improve on that, which means that maybe like the government of Kenya needs to create an institute within KIPI, just like they do in Japan and Korea. That you go through brass everywhere, including primary school, high school, universities, preaching about IP. So that first of all, we create awareness that you have got a brain, and that brain was created. It was a gift. You are gifted that one by God to actually think and create solutions.
Great. I didn't want to miss this. Sorry, in very few words, engineer. Can an article be patented? Can an article be patented? Each a newspaper. There's this question. I would have missed it out.
No, you cannot patent an article, but you can get the rights, which are called copyrights. Yeah, and that is the C that I said can be applied. If you look at most of the publications and those kind of articles, they will have a copyright notice down there at the lower end. Okay, so it cannot be patented, and I think that is one of the confusion that I find in this country, that everybody calls those intellectual property rights a patent. They are patents for products, methods, and formulations, and machines and things like that, equipment. Okay. But for these others, there are other rights. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Dear participants, we really appreciate that you picked your time to join our discussion. We are grateful that Engineer BK, you found time to join with research and innovation to conduct this webinar. As I mentioned, for me, there are two things. One, our aim is to pass the information, and we believe that you're informed. And then two, to get you inspired, and we believe that our capacity for intellectual property has been increased. So I would say thank you so much for participating in this. I really appreciate the technical team. Amos, thank you so much. Thank you all. So we come to the end of this webinar, and we'll be having a next one soon. We'll announce the title. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you. The only thing I've suffered is this computer.